Hello, my name's Tanner Bivens. You may know me from my website, Tanner Reviews, where I talk about movies and video games. You also might know me from my podcast, The Nerdiest Talk Show on Earth, as well as my work with ProjectDerailed.com. You may be wondering why I'm sitting here on my couch talking to you today, and the best way that I can describe this is an earnest declaration of my own affections. I love role-playing games. I love them. I love the stories that can be told, the camaraderie the game brings, the collecting new knickknacks, dice, books, and most importantly, collecting new games. While RPGs are more common knowledge today, back in the day in the 90s, the 80s, the 2000s, they weren't as really common knowledge. For the most part, a lot of people thought that the only thing that was part of the role-playing game was Dungeons & Dragons. But as time has shown, and as we all know now, in reality, there are literally thousands of role-playing games that cover every aspect of society and every genre that we hold dear. You have games that range from steampunk and cyberpunk. You have fantasy and science fiction. You have westerns and settings that take place in modern day. You have stories that revolve around werewolves, vampires, and ghosts. You have movies and television shows, video games like Firefly, Babylon 5, Star Wars, and Star Trek. You have Game of Thrones, and you even have Lord of the Rings. That's right, you have a game based on Dungeons & Dragons that was based on Lord of the fucking Rings. Talk about a circle of life. And that is only scratching the surface. I mean, honestly, I have hundreds of books around here on these shelves over here, as well as on my desk over here. I even have double that on my computer in PDF forms that I've collected over the years. And that is only scratching the surface on the number of role-playing games that are out there. There are hundreds of thousands of them. They're everywhere. It's really amazing. So I thought to myself, how about we have a series, a web series, that is dedicated to looking at these different role-playing games. And obviously we're going to get to things like Dungeons & Dragons and its different editions. We'll talk about things like Shadowrun and World of Darkness, the more popular mainstream of these. But really, this web series is going to be dedicated to looking at the more obscure ones, the ones that kind of fell out of the mind's eye or just aren't talked about as much. So this web series is going to be titled Crit or Botch, and it is really meant to love and look at different role-playing games from different genres of all different kinds of parts of society and things that we hold dear. So, for this first episode of Crit or Botch, I was actually thinking long and hard about which game I actually wanted to cover first. All things considered, I have a lot of books and a lot of role-playing games, a lot of which a lot of people haven't even heard of. And I thought that the best way to really start this series off is to not only pick a role-playing game that's very obscure and not known by damn near anybody, but also one that is definitely on the more bad side of things. Because I want to really show to everybody that there are lots of these games out here and they range from good to bad, but there's a lot of the more obscure ones that are just plain terrible. So, for the first one, I want to talk about a diceless role-playing game that is based off of an obscure 1993 television series called Wetsuit. When I say obscure, I do mean obscure. I worked my ass off trying to find info on this thing, besides the role-playing game that was given to me. I even enlisted the help of friends of mine who could only find a Reddit on the subject. Apparently, from what the book tells me, it was a short-lived television show that was set in the world 2008. The polar ice caps have melted, and now the world is in chaos, basically almost completely covered in water, surrounded by tyrants and pirates and all kinds of things. You are a part of a crew of this ship called the Beacon. a large ship that was created by the now defunct United Nations. Basically, they just sailed across the world looking for different tyrants and escapades to get into. Man, 2017 is going to be really eventful if this is what we have to look forward to. The game is clearly a tie-in meant to entice more people to get more involved with the show. Apparently the people who made this were clearly seeing dollar signs, because even in the book it is so boastful that it even asks you to tune in 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock Central Time. Yeah, okay, I can safely say that that didn't happen. This book is only 10 pages long, but I have to be honest, even in those 10 pages, this game shows off how inadequate and cheap that it is. First off, the book is, as I said, 10 pages long. It barely offers any insight into the show, which means that you have to watch the show in order to understand anything. Some of you might be quick to call foul on this, saying, "Of course, Tanner, you need to watch the show in order to play. If you actually like the show, then you're going to want to play." Who would want to play if you haven't even watched the show? To that, I'm going to call some serious bullshit. Because in all games that I've found from movies that are based on movies and television, they offer a detailed description of the universe in order to bring in people who might be casual fans of the television show or movie, or might not know it as well. Sure, the Game Master might need to know a lot more about the thing, but really, you just need a kind of passing familiarity in order to participate. But no, this book is only 10 pages long, with one page being the character sheet, and the other page being condescending enough to explain to us what a role-playing game is. Beyond that, the remaining 8 pages are nothing more than explaining, as quickly as possible, how the game works. At the end of the day, there is only half of a page offering a discussion on the mythos and a page dedicated to the map of the universe. Which, admittedly, it's actually pretty cool. They use names as examples, but fuck if I know who these people are, or why I should even care. They are probably one of these bumblefucks, but who the hell cares considering the show apparently didn't last long enough for a first season. The gameplay is also fucked. Wetsuit is a diceless role-playing game. As most people are well aware, role-playing games tend to use dice as a mean of determining outcomes for events, or some other means such as deck of cards like in Deadlands, or even a set of Jenga like I saw in a Call of Cthulhu game. There are some role-playing games out there that are not meant to be used with dice or anything attached to it. That way you can play without worrying about collecting dice, having a poker set nearby, or having anything other than a pencil and paper. You see, the way the game works is that you have 3 attributes, or as the game calls it, bio-readouts. Your wetsuit readout, which is how good you look in a wetsuit, your glasses readout, which is how intelligent you are, and your haircut, which is your social presence. While these areas do boil down to the 3 general concepts of role-playing game, your physical strengths, your smarts, and your social presence, I do love how condescending the game gets by boiling down your strengths and social presence to just about how good you look. Also, the text screams of dipshit middle-aged person trying to relate to a group of teens. You are so cool, fresh, and totally modern. Like, yeah, hip and fresh urban gangster flavor. Either way, you're given 8 points to put into each category. You have to put 1 into each of them, so that gives you 5 to kind of play around with how strong your character is, or how intelligent, or something to that effect. You then have to select 4 traits to go along with your character. These traits can be a little soft RP, make them up as you go type of deal, but the game does offer a few examples like ex-pirate, cat burglar, flipper feet, gray-haired, and so forth. You are finally able to choose one of each under the 4 backgrounds of Memento, Contact, Secret, and Incident. I actually kind of like this part. It doesn't add a whole lot, but it gives you a moment to actually build a character and build a person. Give them incidents that happen in their past, or a memento or keepsake they hold on to, a friend they can contact on the ship. It's one of the better and more simplistic roleplay aspects of the game. I mean, that's at least one nice thing I can say about it. Gameplay itself is rather straightforward after that. The way checks work is the game asks you to make checks either with wetsuit, glasses, or haircut. You then take traits that are related to that particular score. If your points go over, you succeed. If your points fall short, you fail. That is pretty much it. Besides a little bit on reviews and also how to build the last scene, the game boils down to just very quickly building a character and then soft RPing with your friends. It's meant to just be a fast food role-playing tie-in. Too bad the TV show didn't work out. As far as deciding on whether or not this game falls into crit or botch category is relatively simple. While the game does earn some points for being a quick character creation game that is meant to get a character out quickly and efficiently, to get them playing and to immerse themselves into the world, the rest of it falls flat or is just downright condescending. The book is painfully short, with only 10 pages that barely offer any insight into the mythos, especially since this mythos can kind of be a little cool. But, considering that this game is a soft RP and I know nothing about the television show, I'm kind of left out in the cold. The wording feels like a middle-aged man trying to relate to his teenage daughter in the 90s. The ability readout scores boil down the complexities of the human interaction with just about how good you look. And ultimately, it just feels like a cheap cash-in to go along with a television show that never really materialized. So, at the end of the day, the first role-playing game that goes on to the show Crit or Botch ends up in the botch category. Now, I have to actually say that this show is going to be dedicated to all kinds of role-playing games, so you're going to find good and bad alike. However, I know very well that shows like this tend to want to see the host in a bit of pain, so there's probably going to be more botches than crits along the way. But such is the way of life. So, I ask you, please, like and subscribe for more. There's going to be more of these coming out. Also, please go to tannerreviews.com or projectderailed.com to find more of me. Also, please check us out on SoundCloud with the nerdiest talk show on earth. Well, now that I'm done with this, I'm really going to need to kind of have a palate cleanser, so if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go check out Vampire the Masquerade.